Welcome to another edition of Coffee Corner, where we sit in a corner, we drink coffee, and we talk about some important things, like school lunch. Because all your formative experiences as a kid happened in the school cafeteria. No, but really, school lunches are crucial for a kid's development and performance in school. Often school lunches are the most nutritious meal a kid gets on a daily basis, and both kids and parents rely on school lunches. However, not all school lunch programs are created equal. I grew up in the US, so I can speak from a vast amount of experience that school lunches aren't great, at best. And actually, objectively, they're just not good. It's because they're mostly ultra-processed foods, and I'm a child of the 90s, which means that ultra-processed foods were a staple of my childhood. Oh gosh. So when my kids started school in the US a couple years ago, I saw that school lunches hadn't really changed. They were still serving the high processed food products each day for lunch. So now that we've moved to Sweden, I'm really curious what school lunches are like here. Chicken drumstick and corn muffin. Spaghetti carbonara with bacon. Chili with chips and cheese. Tikka masala with basmati rice. Pizza. Panko baked fish with herb sauce. Chicken potato bowl. How about potato and ground beef gratin with chopped tomatoes and mozzarella. Easy jammer. Burgundy pork tenderloin with béarnaise sauce and roasted potatoes. Bam! Sidebar. Easy jammers are the worst. They are a food product posing as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a PB&J. The Easy Jammer is a PB&J with cheap white bread with zero nutrients, sugary jelly, and a thing called wow butter. It really is wow when you look at the ingredients of wow butter. It's like they took peanut butter and sucked up everything good about it. Sure, there's no peanuts in it, so that's good for people with peanut allergies, but there's not a good replacement. They use soybeans, palm oil, and a bunch of other things that have no nutrients. I'm not hating on PB&Js, they're great, but the Easy Jammer is an abomination. In Utah, where we were living, the school lunches weren't free, but they were very cheap. And I would say that's probably the case for most of the United States. We were paying about $2 per lunch per kid every day, which is really cheap. And school lunch programs are funded partly by income and property taxes, liquor taxes, and some other federal programs. Yet, despite that funding, Utah still has a $2.8 million school lunch debt. They can't cover the cost of running their school lunch programs to feed the kids in school every day. What? What's going on there? Meanwhile, in Sweden, school lunch programs are entirely funded by local taxes. They have been free for all children since the 1970s. And in 2011, Sweden passed a law to mandate that school lunches must be nutritious. We're 50 years behind in the US, if not more. Just last month, the governor of Utah redirected $1.2 million of COVID-19 relief funding to help pay off that $2.8 million school lunch debt. Woo! You know, and while it's great that they're paying off their debts, it still doesn't solve the underlying issue of why is there a school lunch debt to begin with? And why is it nearly $3 million? What can be done to prevent this from happening again? And shouldn't school lunches be free for kids, period, regardless of socioeconomic status or who you are or where you come from? And what mind boggles me is that they're nearly $3 million in debt for school lunches that are primarily just highly processed foods. They're not nutritious. they're not that helpful. It's like, what's going on? Why? Why? School lunches are so important, and we're failing at making them good. Popcorn chicken and waffles. Spaghetti. Cheese stuffed sticks. Swedish sausage stroganoff with rice. Barbecue beef sandwich. Chicken steak with thyme and roasted potatoes. Fish nuggets with a roll. Pasta Alfredo. Spicy chicken sandwich. Chicken cockova with potato gratin. So I did an experiment. While we were living in the US, I would go on a weekly basis to my kids' school and eat school lunch. And I did that to get kind of a baseline sense of the quality of school lunch in the US. And now that we've been living here in Sweden, I've been doing the same thing. I go on a regular basis to my kids' school, eat school lunch, and now I've got a sense of what the Swedish school lunch quality is. But before I tell you about the comparison between US and Swedish school lunch, let me preface it with this. Running a school lunch program is a massive endeavor. You have to prepare hundreds, if not thousands of meals every single day. And that's challenging even for the most sophisticated restaurants. Now factor in that you have to do all of that on a shoestring budget. These people running these programs are heroes. And the problem with school lunch programs is funding, not the people running the programs. So with that, let's compare American versus Swedish school lunches. Let's go! In Utah, I noticed that there's lots of plastic and packaging that comes with your food. Everything is disposable, except for the trays. So that means that there's a lot of waste. You end up throwing away food as well as all that packaging and plastic. I've noticed that things are generally very sweet and are made cheaply and at a huge scale, which kind of makes sense given that the budgets are extremely slim. And mind you that Utah is nearly $3 million in debt for these school lunches. I found that food is often warmed up instead of being made from scratch. That wasn't always the case, but I found that to be pretty regular. Now in Sweden, I immediately noticed that there's no plastic and no packaging for the food. It's this buffet style system, and you have a real plate with real silverware, no plastic, and you serve your own food instead of someone else putting food on a tray for you. That was the first thing I noticed. I couldn't believe that there was no plastic or packaging involved. Everything is made from scratch. It's food, not a food product. Like literally, the food is cooked and prepared, which shouldn't be that like mind-boggling, but it is when the baseline for school lunches in the US is food products being heated up rather than food being made from scratch. It's just wild. It sounds simple, but it makes such a big difference. I noticed that they're using real ingredients in Sweden, like real identifiable ingredients. I can tell you what I'm eating. In the US, kids would just throw all their leftovers and the plastic and the packaging that came with the food into a big garbage can. But in Sweden, you have a place to put your leftover food, and they'll go and compost that. And then the kids are in charge of wiping down the tables and making sure everything is clean once they're finished. It's really smart. Regardless of what they're serving that day, there's always knäckebröd, which is like this hard, crispy Swedish bread that's just ultra common. It's everywhere. And it's really good, but it takes a little bit of getting used to if you're unfamiliar. That's always there, the kids can butter it up, and it just hits the spot. Maybe you didn't like the food that day at school lunch? No problem, knäckebröd's got your back. Chicken nuggets, 4-cheese pasta with chicken. Turkey sandwich, coconut chicken curry with basmati rice. Orange chicken with rice, oven-baked sausage casserole. Ham and cheese croissant, chicken and vegetable stir fry with egg noodles. Wow. Cheeseburger, kebab gyros with potatoes and garlic sauce. Wow, knockout punch!